Now we will move on to the focus of today's session, how to nominate. As we go, remember you can use the Q&A function if you have any questions. Today we are covering eligibility, how to nominate if you're a party-endorsed candidate, how to nominate if you're an independent candidate, including everything you need to prepare for your nomination appointment, the ballot draw, and how to access electoral roll products.
Keep in mind that you are not officially a candidate in the election until you have lodged your nomination form in person and paid the deposit.
Before you begin the nomination process, you should confirm your eligibility to stand as a candidate by checking the eligibility criteria listed on our website and in the candidate handbook. You are eligible to nominate as a candidate if at the close of the roll, you are a Victorian resident, enrolled to vote in Victoria, and not disqualified from being a Member of Parliament. You cannot nominate if you are not enrolled, are a judge of a court in Victoria, are an undischarged bankrupt, or are a member of either house of the Commonwealth Parliament. You can stand for election, but can't take office without first resigning if you are a local government councillor, a Victorian public service employee, or an Australian public service employee. There are further disqualifications, and if you're not sure if you're eligible to nominate, refer to the candidate handbook for more detail. You should also consider seeking independent legal advice.
Make sure your enrolment details are up to date before you begin the nomination process, especially if your name and address have changed in the last few years, as your enrolment details cannot be changed for this election after the close of roll. You can check your enrolment at the VEC website. It is your responsibility to make sure that you're eligible to nominate as a candidate and hold office if you are elected. If you are ineligible and still lodge a nomination, you are committing an offence. So check your enrolment, confirm your eligibility, and seek advice if unsure, either by contacting the Candidate Services team at the VEC or seeking independent legal advice. The VEC cannot provide you with advice on how the eligibility requirements apply to your individual circumstances. If you find out after you nominate that you're no longer eligible, contact the election manager as soon as possible.
The nominations process differs depending on whether you are running as an independent candidate or as a candidate endorsed by a registered political party. If you're endorsed by a registered political party, you must complete Part 2 of the nomination form for RPP candidates, and the registered officer of the party must then lodge your nomination by appointment at VEC head office. For the 2026 state election, nominations open at 9 a.m. on Wednesday the 4th of November and close at 12 noon on Monday the 9th of November.
Nomination appointments with registered officers from registered political parties will take place at VEC's head office at Level 11, 530 Collins Street, Melbourne. The VEC will reach out to registered officers with details on how to make nomination appointments. Only registered officers or deputy registered officers can lodge nominations on behalf of their party. So the registered officer or the deputy registered officer must attend the appointment in person.
For registered political parties, the easiest way to prepare the nomination forms on behalf of your endorsed candidates is to use the Endorsed Nominations tool to input each candidate's details before attending the nomination appointment. Each candidate will still need to sign the declaration on Part 2 of their own nomination form, and the registered officer must sign Part 1 of the nomination form as well. We're developing a new system for this election to make nominations for RPPs even smoother, and we'll share instructions on how to use the new system with registered political parties ahead of the nomination period. On screen is a step-by-step guide to the nomination process for independent candidates. We'll go into each point in detail, but remember that your first step is to confirm your eligibility. As an independent candidate, you will submit your nomination to the election manager of the district or region election you are nominating for. You can prepare the nomination form online using our Candidate Helper tool. This is the fastest and easiest way to complete it, or by picking up a hard copy nomination form from any of the election offices across the state once they open in November. You will need to make an appointment to lodge your nomination with the election manager of the district election you are nominating for. If you are nominating for a region election, you can make an appointment with any of the election managers for a district election within that region. It is a good idea to make an appointment early in the nomination period to discuss any questions you have and ensure there is time to resolve any issues with your nomination forms.
You can book your nomination appointment by calling the VEC Candidate Services team on 03 86 20 1316 before nominations open, or directly with the election office on the first day of the nomination period. Phone numbers for the election office will be listed on the VEC website. You cannot submit your nomination form online or by email.
Independent candidates must get support from nominators for the electorate in which they wish to nominate. As part of your nomination form, you must collect the full name, enrolment address, date of birth, and signatures of at least 6 people if you are nominating for a district election, or at least 50 people if you are nominating for a regional election. These people must be enrolled in the district or region in which you are nominating.
You should provide more than the required number of nominators in case any of them are found to be enrolled in a different electorate or not enrolled at all when we perform our checks during the nomination appointment. If you use Candidate Helper, you can print a copy of the form to fill out as part of your nomination form, or pick up a copy from the VEC website or any election office.
We touched on Candidate Helper earlier in this session, and we encourage you to use it to prepare your nomination form, as it will guide you through each part of the nomination form and make it easier to prepare. Candidate Helper will be available on the VEC website shortly before the opening of nominations. You do not need to complete your form in one session, and you can save it and come back later. Using Candidate Helper means that your information can be loaded into our election management system automatically at our nomination appointment, and you won't have to wait for the election manager to manually type the information into our systems. Once you have entered all your details, you can save your information and generate a pre-completed nomination form to print. You must print your forms before your nomination appointment, as you won't be able to use any printers at the election office. You can call the Candidate Services team if you need any assistance.
Using Candidate Helper to prepare your nomination does not submit or approve your nomination. You must still attend an appointment with the election manager at the relevant election office with your completed nomination form and nomination deposit, unless you have authorised another person to attend the appointment or you are nominating by post. Candidate Helper also does not check your enrolment or verify your eligibility to nominate. If you're a silent elector, you will still be required to provide your enrolled address on your nomination form.
On the nomination form, you will confirm how your name will appear on the ballot paper. If your name does not meet the requirements, we will ask you to amend your ballot paper name, which may delay the processing of your nomination. Your family name must match the electoral roll exactly, but you may use an acceptable alternative to your full given name that appears on the electoral roll. Acceptable alternatives to given names include your middle name or a second given name, initials standing for any of your given names, a commonly accepted variation of your first name, including an abbreviation or an alternate form of that name, such as Sam instead of Samantha, or a name you are commonly known by, but that is not your legal first name. For example, an anglicised first name. If you do go by a name that is not your legal name on the roll, you must provide evidence with your nomination form that confirms you are known by that name in the community. If the evidence is not satisfactory, you may be required to use your enrolled name on the ballot paper. Further specific guidelines for ballot paper names can be found in the Candidate Handbook. Acceptable evidence may include, for example, a business card or an ID card, a work email address, a news publication, or a utility bill. Social media profiles or posts are not sufficient evidence to demonstrate that you are known by a different name. So remember to check your enrolment details before nominating to ensure your name on the roll is up to date. If you need to update your details on the roll, you must do so before the close of roll in November.
You must provide an email address and at least one phone number for the VEC to contact you regarding your nomination, and so we can send you important updates about the election. Please provide an email address and phone number that you will use even after the election has concluded. These details will only be used for official purposes. They will not be publicly available, but will be passed on to the Department of Parliamentary Services if you are elected, so that they can contact you to arrange your onboarding as a Member of Parliament.
You will also be required to provide the details of a public contact person on behalf of your campaign. The contact person can be you, or you can provide the name and contact details of another person. These details will be displayed at the election office and will be published on the VEC website and accessible to the public. You must provide an email address and at least one phone number. It is important that the person you have put down as your contact person is aware that their details will be publicly available. We will use these details to notify you by email if we conduct a recount in your election. Once contact details are published on the VEC website, it's not possible to make any changes.
You must also provide a contact person who the VEC will contact regarding any complaints or inquiries about your election signs. You can provide contact details for yourself for this purpose or another person, including the same person to act as your public contact and your signage contact. These details will not be published, but will be used for official purposes, including at short notice. So an email address and at least one phone number must be provided. And this contact person must be available and ready to respond to issues during the busy periods of the election, including at short notice and outside of business hours.
Make sure you have everything ready for your nomination appointment. You'll need your completed hard copy nomination form, the details of your nominators, 6 people if you're nominating for a district election or 50 people if you're nominating for a region election, and your nomination deposit of $350 cash. The nomination deposit must be paid by cash. We cannot accept personal checks, card payments, EFTPOS, or money orders. Election offices will open and be ready to take appointment bookings from 9 a.m. on Wednesday, the 4th of November. For the 2026 state election, nominations for all candidates will close at 12 noon on Monday, the 9th of November 2026. Don't leave your appointment until the last day, in case there are errors with your forms that need to be fixed before the close of nominations.
If you are unable to lodge your nomination in person, you should contact Candidate Services or the election manager to discuss your other options. It is your responsibility to ensure that your nomination form is received by the election manager before the deadline. Late nominations cannot be accepted.
When you arrive at the election office for your appointment, a staff member or the election manager will check that you have completed your nomination form and have brought the nomination deposit with you. If there are any issues with missing or incorrect information, the election manager will discuss this with you. You must initial any changes you make to your nomination form. The election manager will then send your nomination form to the VEC's head office, where staff will confirm the details of your nominators you provided against the electoral roll and advise the election manager once this is complete. This process can take some time depending on the number of nominations being processed across Victoria, so you may need to wait.
When your nominators have been confirmed, the election manager will enter your nomination form information into our election management system. VEC head office staff will conduct further checks, and if we identify any issues, the election manager will contact you to resolve it. Following the close of nominations, the election manager will conduct the ballot draw.
The order of each candidate and group on the ballot papers for state elections is determined by a computerised random draw after nominations close. The ballot draw for each district election is a single computerised random draw. The ballot draw for each region election is drawn randomly in up to 3 parts to determine the order of groups above the line, the order of candidates within a group, if a group did not specify the order for their candidates to be listed, followed by the order of ungrouped candidates. The ballot draw is a public event and anyone can attend, including candidates. After the ballot draw, the VEC website will be updated to show the candidate names in ballot paper order. The random computerized draw, has been independently audited. In rare cases, such as a technology outage, a manual draw might be necessary. For more information and to view the code used for our random computerized draw, please see the VEC website.
After the ballot draw, the election manager will provide you with a sample how to vote card, showing candidates' names as they will appear on the ballot paper. Please pay close attention to the order, spelling and format of these names on the ballot paper, as errors on your how to vote cards may result in any applications you make to register how to vote cards being rejected. For registered groups and registered political parties, Group voting ticket templates for each region election will also be sent via email.
For independent candidates, once you are nominated, you will be able to request access to roll information for the district or region election that you are contesting. You are only permitted to use roll data for the purposes connected to the election campaign or monitoring the accuracy of information contained on the roll. It is your responsibility to take steps to protect enrolment information in your possession, and you must destroy this information and any copies after your campaign. Some of the permitted uses are to send electoral campaign material, for door-knocking campaigns, or for mail merging letters. Please note, we do not give out email addresses, phone numbers, or details of silent electors as part of this information. Misuse of roll data is a serious offence and strict penalties do apply.
Registered political parties are entitled to receive enrolment data for the state of Victoria if you are an endorsed candidate. So please contact your party in the first instance. We use a secure data exchange portal called DEX to provide enrolment information to registered political parties and candidates. Roll products will be uploaded to DEX as soon as possible after the close of nominations. Registered political parties and candidates who have requested roll products will receive an email notification when the roll products are available. Registered officers for registered political parties are entitled to receive a file containing a copy of the electoral roll for all districts. Registered political parties receive data files year-round as part of an agreed schedule of roll products and already have access to DEX. Candidates who request a roll receive a single data file in comma-separated values, CSV format, which can be opened in Microsoft Excel. Candidates may also access postal vote application data by completing the confidentiality agreement form, which you can submit as part of your nomination appointment. Like other roll products, this will only contain names and addresses of postal applicants, not phone or email contact information.
And that concludes the deep dive into the nomination process. If you have any questions about becoming a candidate, please use the Q&A function now. If you're having any trouble with the Q&A function, you can also email your questions to candidateservices@vec.vic.gov.au. For any questions that come through that relate to individual circumstances or if any of a technical nature, we may take them on notice and get back to you directly in the coming days. We'll start with the questions submitted ahead of time.
Catherine, we've got some questions already up. So, someone's asked, can I pay the nomination fee by bank cheque?
Yes, currently you can pay by bank cheque, but cash is preferred. There's a 10% cost for most banks on issuing a bank cheque, so for $350, it's usually a bit easier. But yes, bank cheque is allowed.
How do independent candidates get access to the roll?
Independent candidates will also get access to the roll through DEX, our secure data exchange system. They will be contacted after the close of nominations if they filled out an access to the roll request form and put down the same email address that they used during the nomination appointment. So please make sure that you are accessing your nomination appointment email. You'll receive instructions on how to access DEX through a candidate bulletin, and you'll have to sign an agreement around confidentiality of the material, but then you'll be able to download the files directly from DEX.
So this one's in regard to voting centres. So when can candidates get a list of where the voting centres are?
Excellent question again. So voting centres will be provided to candidates through a candidate bulletin, which will go out, the first one immediately after the close of nominations. But we also have a statewide voting centre locator, which is part of our interactive map on the website.
Someone's asked, do they have to make a how to vote card?
Great question. How to vote cards are not compulsory, so you don't have to register one, but they are the only form of electoral campaign material that can be handed out within 100 metres of voting centres on election day. So it's in your best interests to register a card, let voters know who you are and why they should vote for you. So you do have something to hand out if you're going to be campaigning outside voting centres on election day.
I'm just going to wait and see if any more come through now. Okay, so when it comes to providing evidence of alternative names, can this be provided ahead of the nomination period for review by the VEC in case the evidence isn't sufficient or another type is required?
That's a great question. Absolutely, you can send through evidence to candidateservices@vec.vic.gov.au. We'll take a look at it. We'll give you some advice as to whether it would be sufficient, but then you will also have to provide that with your nomination form in November.
I'm just going to allow another minute to see if any more questions come through.
All right, it looks like that's all we have for today. Thanks everyone for your questions. Just some closing remarks before we wrap up this evening. So here are some key dates on the screen once again. Topics not covered in today's information session that you should also be aware of are your funding and disclosure obligations and the rules around electoral campaign material. Be sure to familiarise yourself on these topics using the information available on the VEC website and in the candidate handbook. But we also have some further webinars coming up, which will cover these. If this briefing has raised any questions that we have not covered, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us anytime or contact your election manager from Tuesday the 3rd of November when election offices open.
And join us for additional deep dives into topics specific to candidates and parties at later webinars. You can view the information session schedule and register on the VEC website. Thank you again for joining us today.